Welcome to our Immortal Horrors. I'm Meek Nomicon, and today I'm playing for the game Serena. We come across a young girl who seems to be afflicted with an awful disease that requires her to consume blood to survive. And now, with our help, we must help her live. But sadly, not everything can last forever. It was a warm April morning. All was relatively silent, like the calm before the storm, which was to happen in that jungle of steel and concrete. If you took enough time to admire the sky, you could feel the breeze gently caressing your face. In the air, birds were beginning to take their morning flight, and on the ground, cars were beginning to populate the cold asphalt. But that sort of triviality didn't matter now. Why, you might ask? Because in this city, in this life, nobody cared about that anymore. Who would raise their gaze to watch the clouds sail over the blue sea? Who would appreciate the warmth that the sun leaves on us? No, people no longer value any of that. They prefer to focus their attention on what is in front of them and not look beyond. Where is the magic of life then? Do all people end up consumed in this way? That was extremely frightening. No one would want to suffer such a tragic fate. Maybe that's why, among all those people, in one of those crowded, busy streets, there was someone totally out of place. She was a girl, a beautiful young maiden with white hair, as white and as pure as snow, as pale as death itself. She kept her eyes on the ground, following a man. She made sure to keep up the pace, but although she was walking, her thoughts were elsewhere. Her mind, her feelings, they were far away. But her pain, what she carried in silence, accompanied her like a shadow. No one in the surroundings was aware of her presence. She was like a beautiful flower from the very Garden of Eden in the middle of a desert, and nobody cared. Like automatons, a faceless figure moved from one place to another. "Don't be left behind," the man said to her from time to time. What was she doing there? Where was she headed? Maybe that didn't matter either. Her sadness was visible. Her pain was noticeable. Ironically, all that suffering, sadness, and pain was invisible to the not very discerning eye. So, how can you tell? If her tears ran down her soul and not her cheeks, if each drop withered her wounded heart, as if she was sinking into a pit of darkness and she could only give silent cries of despair, because she could feel herself drowning with each passing day. Every X on the calendar was one day less here, and one more in her torment, unable to do anything to avoid this sad fate. She was bound up in that confusion and fear, totally paralyzed. In addition to her sad gaze, her eyes were beginning to look empty. If you took a look at her, you knew that she was suffering from a terrible thirst, a thirst that water could not quench. What could it be? Of knowledge? Of power? Of life? She didn't know either, and she was afraid to know the answer. She could only observe the indifferent stares of the others on her. Who could she ask for help? No, she had no one, because she's always been alone, and that, without doubt, increased her thirst. But who was to fill her cup? A cup of false promises and empty words? That would be a waste of time. Is that why no one remembers the last time she smiled? Can no one describe what her laugh is like anymore? Or the colour of her eyes when she is happy? No. No one could do such a thing, and she herself could not do it either. Gradually, she began to feel herself losing her essence. As her identity blurred, I want to scream, but no one would listen to her. I want to cry, but no one would comfort her. I want to run away. No one can run away from oneself. In that case, let me die. You can't do it. So, then I want to be saved. Serena, the thorns of an immortal heart. It was morning. I had been up for several hours and was ready to go out. Today I had to go to the bank to withdraw some savings that I had for emergencies. I was in a serious predicament because I was unemployed. In fact, it wasn't something I was too worried about. If I was to be homeless or without food, if it was the work of what they call destiny, then go ahead. I considered that, in this life, there were more important things to worry about, things to pay attention to. Why should I lose my sleep over such things? I wanted to dream beyond those cold walls, beyond these cold faces. You know, things, people. Nothing is forever, or so they say. And if I were to lose everything, then I'd be willing to start all over again. I must go now, I said to myself. I looked in the mirror for the last time and closed the door before I started on my way. The smell of smoke from the cars made an unpleasant contrast to the rest of the atmosphere. I knew the path I had to follow, so my mind, almost out of habit, switched off from the world and went into a kind of automatic mode. I had no money. I had no job. Neither friends nor family. I had nothing, and that was something I found both distressing and indifferent at the times. Even so, I pretended not to care. I didn't pay attention to my insecurities and worries, although it was something that would one day take its toll on me. You cannot run forever from what you are trying to avoid. But it scares me to know that, for many of these wars, I have already lost the battle. Every time I crossed the street, a part of me got angry. I couldn't stand such a dreary atmosphere. Shop lights and colourful advertisements, people with 1,000 colours in their hair, loud music and luxurious cars. But their expressions were as muted as a storm cloud. I'm sure that for more than one of those people, their greatest fear would be to simply stop for a second and appreciate that, deep down, they are even more alone than I am. Everything they strive and sacrifice for, in the end, does not fill any of those voids we all feel. Maybe that's why we all feel unhappy. Or maybe it's that I just think too much. The answer was clear. That didn't matter either. I arrived at the doors of the bank and looked inside, through the tinted windows. The blinds were down, so it was hard to see who was inside. Anyway, I went in. I opened the door. These metal knobs were burning from the sun, and the first thing I felt was a blast of cold wind from the air conditioning. I went inside, as if I was also entering another atmosphere, totally opposite to the one outside. Far from the sun, far from the warmth, I went into what I call one of the rings of human darkness. Because here, everything but joy abounds, of course. The atmosphere was undoubtedly gloomy. In spite of being in the middle of the year, when life abounds in the mountains, where the flowers are full of colour, or the animals become more active, here, on the other hand, it was the opposite. I detested these kinds of things. They consumed my morale. But it wasn't necessary if I wanted to be functional in this society. Luckily, there were not as many people as on other occasions. The typical old lady who comes to check her savings, some man who will come to draw part of his salary, etc. But among all these people, there was someone, a girl. She looked about my age and about my height. She was striking, very striking. Why? Well, her hair was completely white, and her aura. She seemed so elegant, majestic and mature, as well as sad. She caught my attention, obviously. How could she not? I didn't usually stop to look at others, but on this occasion, she seemed different, as if her place wasn't here. If I had more courage in such cases, I would certainly have approached her and asked her for her number or her name. I'm sure she has a name as elegant as her hair, but... Everybody on the ground! Someone shouted behind me. A hooded man, wearing a black jacket and carrying a gun, entered the bank. With one kick, he knocked one of the old women to the ground. He seemed nervous and quite violent. It was probably his first time doing something like this. I clenched my fists tightly, thinking about what to do. But what could I do? Rather, should I do something? In the worst case, I could end up with a bullet in my head for trying to be a hero. Where'd you have the money? Give me everything you have! You two! He ordered us as he aimed his gun at us. A second man, armed with a shotgun, entered just as agitated. They forced us all to give them our belongings. Watches, phones, money. Come on, you two! He shoved me as he went through my pockets. After that, he looked at the girl. There was a man, bold, of great height, who seemed to be like her father. He tried to stop the thieves from laying a hand on her, but ended up with a blow to his head from the butt of the gun. The man fell to the ground, and the girl watched him with a panicked expression on her face. Give me what you have or I'll shoot you! He shouted at the young woman, but a third robber entered, and with a gesture, signaled to the rest that the police were coming. So they all ran away. Everyone except the one who was aiming at the girl. Didn't you hear me? Give me what you have or... He paused as he looked her up and down. I have a better idea. You come with us. He grabbed her arm and pushed her towards the exit. He was going to kidnap her, wasn't he? But what kind of question am I asking? Of course he was going to kidnap her, and who knows what else he would do to her. There was no time to think. I have nothing, and what few things I had were just stolen from me. Now, I don't care about anything, so why not? What could I do to avoid the girl being kidnapped? Our options, we could throw something at him, but I don't know if that would really be very helpful unless it's something heavy enough to take him down. We could bring the robber down ourselves and hopefully would get the aspect of surprise, and we could grab the gun before he shoots us. But he'll probably still pull the trigger, so someone might be shot. And I don't think we've got time to think of a different plan. Okay, we're going to bring down the robber. It seems like the best case scenario. I decided it was now or never. I took all the courage I had and pounced on the robber when I had the chance. The girl fell to one side, and I stood over the man. The gun slid to the floor, and sirens began to blare nearby. You! Get out of my way! He shouted and then punched me in the nose to get rid of me. He picked up the gun from the floor and shot without looking to avoid being followed. I breathed a sigh of relief, but... did I get shot? I wasn't expecting me to get shot. This is... blood. I've been wounded, haven't I? Crap. I collapsed, as if in realizing this, all the pain had suddenly awakened. I think I just got myself killed. I closed my eyes and placed my hands on my face, as if in a crude attempt to relieve the pain. I heard people coming out of the bank. The police stopped in front of the building, and it was getting more and more rowdy outside. When I opened my eyes, all was relatively calm. But now I was not alone. In front of me was the girl from before. I mean, definitely vampire-like. I can see those fangs. With a worried expression on her face and quite nervous, as if she was extremely worried about me. I guess that's a normal reaction when someone is wounded, isn't it? And yet, I was surprised that anyone would come forward to help another person. I was so hurt. Are you alright? Because of me, you've been... She said in a warm and sweet tone, but full of guilt and worry. Me? It's nothing. Don't worry. It's just a scratch. A scratch? But you're bleeding. She scolded me, raising her voice. I could almost feel her scolding me for the stupid thing I said, trying to be a hero. You are... It's nothing. See? I tried to reassure her, hiding the pain on my face. She looked at my wound, almost as if she was hypnotized. I assumed it was the result of shock or stress. Or, bloodthirst. So I didn't care too much. You! She turned to me, and she brought her fingers close to my skin, wetting her fingers with my blood. I told you it's alright. I'm sure that... I was trying to stop her. Under my astonished gaze, she licked the blood from her fingers. As she did so, I could almost swear that her eyes sparkled. What are you? When she reacted and realized what she had done, she covered her face. She stood up and turned around. The man who seemed to be with her came over and stood next to me. Boy, are you alright? He asked me as he stroked his earlier bump. Yeah, really. It seems superficial. It doesn't matter. I kept insisting as I pretended to get up. Anyway, let's go outside and get a doctor to treat you. You're alright. He offered me his hand to help me stand up. Thank you. I thanked him politely. I went outside and was immediately treated for my wound. As I said, nothing serious. However, this time it was just pure luck. I could have been killed if that had been the case. After they washed my wound and applied a bandage, they told me I could leave. But not before talking to the police. We all stated what we had seen in order to give as many details as possible to the thieves. When I finished, I was beginning to think that this was going to be an extremely long day. That's what I thought, until again the man's voice called out to me. Hey, kiddo, can I talk to you for a minute? He called me after putting his hand on my shoulder. Sure, what's wrong? I turned to speak to him properly. He took my arm and pulled me away from other people, I guess to talk in private. I have to thank you for protecting Serena, the girl from before, with such bravery. If you hadn't, maybe... I don't even want to think about it. You're welcome. It was what I had to do, I suppose. You don't need to... I didn't want to talk just to say thank you. He stopped me. By the way, what's your name? My name is Edgar. Edgar Bright. That's a good name. I'm Raymond, but everyone calls me Ray. And the girl from before is Serena. I am her attendant. I take care of her security, fulfilling her needs, and a long list of other tasks. The point here is, I have talked to her about what happened. What happened? I asked, not sure what he meant. You know, after she licked your blood. Oh, you'll see. She is sick. As far as you can see, she is a fragile and weak girl. She can hardly tolerate the sun and doesn't usually leave her room. But she was so insistent that I had to bring her with me. It sounds strange, but her illness forces her to need transfusions of blood, almost as if it were her only source of food or sustenance. Without it, she loses her strength and becomes weaker and weaker. And what I wanted to talk to you about is that she won't tolerate just any kind of blood. In fact, she had not been able to eat properly for too long. So, with the stress of the moment, the heat of the sun and her thirst, she lost control. I guess when she saw your blood, she couldn't resist tasting it. And that's kind of weird, you know? Finding someone whose blood is compatible with Serena's body is rare. Very rare. That's why I'm sure her dad would think the same as me. Where are you going with this whole story? It almost seems like you're pulling my leg with a vampire joke. Listen, kid. How about coming with us for a while? We will pay for your stay, a higher salary than here, and whatever you need. In return, you will have to take care of her, and above all, give her some of your blood. You're kidding me, right? How can a human being need blood to live? Is it even legal to ask me such a thing? I questioned. Please, you can leave at any time, but at least come with us and see for yourself how much she needs help. Both for your blood and for perhaps some companionship. I turned my head to look for her. She was looking down at the floor as she waited for us to finish talking. And as a distraction, she wrapped her hair around her index finger. Serena, eh? What kind of person was this girl? From what this man, Ray, was saying, didn't she have any friends? I was curious to meet her. All right, I'll go with you, I answered with determination. Really? He asked me to check that I was absolutely sure of my decision. Yeah, we can leave right now if you need to. Don't you have to take your things or say goodbye to anyone? No. I will leave without anything else. Besides, my apartment, that robber has already taken what little I have, and almost took my own life as well. I have nothing left to lose, so why not? I see. In that case, Serena? He called out to her firmly. We're leaving. Without knowing how I had ended up in this situation, now I was in the back seat of a car that was not mine, with a man I didn't know and a girl who needed my blood to survive. The scriptwriter of my life has no doubt gone mad or drunk today. Perhaps a mixture of both. That man, Ray, talked to me some more about what I needed to do in this new job. I just listened to what he said. Serena barely looked at me or spoke. She remained silent, as if she did not trust me, or conversely, she was still embarrassed by her slip. We arrived at what I guessed was the mansion where Serena lived. It was as big as irregular. It looked new, yet old. Or so my intuition told me. I got out of the car with Serena, while Ray went to park the vehicle and get a few more things. Serena, take Edgar to the guest room and check his wound. He will stay there as long as he resides in this mansion. Can you do that? He asked her as if it were a big favor. Yes, no problem. She seemed to accept without objection. Perfect. I'll be back in a few minutes. She remained silent. The car drove off, and she tried to avoid making eye contact for too long. Without a doubt, it was obvious that she was avoiding me. When our eyes met, she quickly looked away. She was uncomfortable with my presence. Perhaps she doesn't like me at all. Or is she still embarrassed? We walked towards the entrance, but first, I wanted to break the ice with her. If I was going to live here now, I wanted to at least a pleasant atmosphere. So, you're Serena, am I right? Yes, that's right. Serena Regimner. She answered my question politely. And do you really need my blood? Isn't it a bit abnormal? She finished my question as if she had already answered it many times. It is. Of course it is. But do you think my condition is something I asked for? No, of course not. It's just... Sorry, she sighed. I'm a bit tense because of what happened this morning. And I'm almost not sure what happened to me when you and I... You mean when you licked my blood? Don't say it like that. It's the first time something like this has happened to me. I understand that you have a lot of questions about this, but we can talk later. Is that okay? Now, let's go inside before the sun kills me. Oh, you're right. Sorry, come on. With a gesture of my hand, I invited her to continue walking so she could guide me into the mansion. Serena opened the front door, and we entered the place that, from today, will be my new home. The first thing I noticed was that, unlike the outside, everything was quite clean and airy. I suppose Serena had a good group of servants who would do most of the chores for her, didn't she? I imagined that now I was also part of that entourage. We walked up the stairs where my peasant shoes soiled the luxurious carpets on the floor, until we stopped at one of the doors. My new room, my new home. Act 1. New blood. Hey, it's Rebecca! I just played that. I enjoyed it. It was the first day I spent in this place, in this new job. I couldn't sleep a wink because it all seemed so strange compared to the humbler and simpler life I had led before. Now I was surrounded by strangers in a gigantic mansion flaunting opulence. I shook my head trying to clear my mind and started to get dressed. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. I'm guessing that's Ray by the sound of that knock. Edgar? May I come in? Sure, come in. Ray entered with a sheet of paper in his hand, which he placed on the table. I have some documents that you should read and sign. You know, just paperwork. Wait, have you signed up a contract that said I'm gonna let her drink my blood? I wonder how you worded that. I also bring you a little note with your obligations for now, to give you an idea of your duties, now that you are working for Miss Serena. I expect a lot from you, boy. Oh, thanks, Raymond. I tried to thank him for his help and sympathy. Call me Ray, I already told you. He smiled at me in a friendly way. I'll let you finish getting ready, but one last thing, Edgar. As you know, your main duty and the reason you are here is your blood. I know. I haven't forgotten that detail. Perfect. I have brought the necessary equipment to extract a small amount from you, both for Miss Serena and to check your health. No problem, right? Not at all. I see you are still a bit skeptical about the lady's condition. Well, I've never seen anyone who needs to drink blood to survive. It's understandable, but why don't you let the lady tell you everything? Serena, I asked nervously, considering that her attitude towards me was so elusive. Who else? She doesn't seem very willing to get along with me. I doubt she'll want to talk. That's why you're here, mate. Don't despair, and please don't leave her to herself. He sentenced me before turning and closing the door. But I'll be waiting for you when you're ready in the main hall, he shouted as he walked down the corridor. I guess that's how it's gonna be from today onwards. Now I must... Okay, I want to read these papers. Before I finished getting ready, I went over to the table where Ray left the documents and notes. I glanced over the documents. Warnings about liability, occupational hazards, health insurance. What's the occupational hazards, huh? You may slurp a little bit too much blood and you might feel a slight bit lightheadedness. I put my signature without caring too much. I put those sheets aside and took the note with my duties. Welcome, Edgar Bright. You have been hired to, as you may be aware, supply your blood to Miss Serena. In addition to that, you must take care of her by attending to her needs. From protecting her from any risk, threat, or even from the light itself, looking after her health is as important as looking after your own. The cleaning and kitchen staff will take care of most of the daily chores. Obviously, you can contribute to it, but that's not why you're here. Because considering the kind of person you are, we think it's the perfect occasion for you to have a more special goal. You should get close to Serena and be with her. Give her some company and try to make sure she can enjoy herself as much as possible. It is something I could only ask you, Edgar. If you wish to know more, you should ask the lady. Good luck, Raymond. At times like this, I wonder what kind of job I have just accepted. But, well, it's getting late. I better finish dressing. I quickly tidied my clothes, combed my hair, and cleaned my shoes. Once I had everything ready, I went out into the corridor in search of Ray. I didn't know where the main hall he mentioned was, but it shouldn't be too difficult to find. Let's go. Once I went out into the corridors, no one was there. Ray wasn't there, nor was Serena, no staff either. I thought nothing of it and made my way awkwardly to the large main hall where they were waiting for me. After handing over and signing some extra paperwork, I was taken to a more secluded room. I sat quietly and followed the directions I was given. I should at least get a cookie for this, right? It was the moment when I was supposed to give my blood. Nevertheless, I was there for it. I shouldn't be surprised. A wet cotton wool pad was placed on my arm to facilitate the search for veins. After this, and with my null knowledge of medicine, I sensed that some kind of tube had been inserted into me. Perhaps I preferred to not know so much about it. In any case, the blood began to flow, slowly advancing through the transparent tube until it fell into a glass cup, like the one someone would use to drink wine. I didn't ask questions. I knew why I was there, and I knew what it was all for. How do you feel, mate? He asked me with some concern. I feel fine. Why do you ask? We are collecting a lot of blood from you. It's normal to ask, isn't it? I guess so, but I'm feeling okay. I smiled jokingly at him. Understood. But once we're done here, go back to your room and rest. All right, I'll do it. You know what? I don't think I'd actually mind that job. It'd actually be quite convenient for me, wouldn't it be? I just donate my blood to a vampire, and then I spend the rest of my day in my room resting and playing horror games. That actually seems very convenient. God damn it, why can vampires not exist? I replied, a bit discouraged. The day had just started, and I didn't feel like waiting or lying down. Then play a horror game. I told you, it's the perfect scenario. But if that's what I have to do, there's no other way. Ready? You are free to go. Get up carefully. Excuse me. I was informed there would be cookies. I informed myself there would be cookies, but they're still cookies. Ray indicated as he helped me out of my seat. Can you go to your room on your own? I've already told you, it's all okay. Then go, kiddo. Make sure you replenish your fluids and get some rest. I left Ray and a nurse in that room while I went straight to my bedroom. Or so I tried to, from my vague memory of the path, of course. Once I arrived, I lay down on the soft bed. I was feeling fine, but I was slowly starting to feel very tired. I guess it's because of the blood loss. Since I have nothing better to do, I'll just close my eyes for a moment. When I opened my eyes again, it was already late afternoon. I could hear the birds singing to bid farewell to the day and mark the arrival of dusk. I got up slowly, a little dizzy. I was supposed to be fine until just a moment ago, and... I sighed. Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter. I stood up and went outside. And I think the reason why you're feeling so bad right now is because you just went straight to sleep. You forgot to have the cookies. I'm pretty sure you're supposed to. Cookies and fluid, right? I was walking for a long time in those unfamiliar corridors, almost as if in a dreamlike experience. The warm light of the sunset tinged the atmosphere with melancholy. As if I had already experienced this feeling of loneliness and false sadness before, I continued, looking at the paintings, the statuettes that decorated the pillars. I was looking at everything around me, but what struck me the most was that there was no one there. There was nothing, not a single sound, not a single voice, beyond my footsteps walking on the red velvet of the carpet. There was nothing else. I walked aimlessly as I let my instinct and imagination guide me, until a strong gust of wind broke my trance. One of the nearby windows was open, and I could hear the sound of the curtains fluttering in the breeze. I went to look for that window, without expecting that, of all the places, she would be there. When I arrived, she was looking at the landscape while, at times, she held her hair. She kept that sad, almost absent expression, like the first time we met, fixed on the horizon, away from here. The air caressed her hair and made it sway in a captivating and majestic scene. I wanted to know why her eyes were trying to hide that pain. That story that, perhaps, will never be told by her lips, but will be told by her gaze. "Here you are," she said by way of greeting, as if she had been looking for me. "Indeed, here I am, ready to serve you," I jokingly replied with a mock bow. "I see you had a good rest," she sighed and paused briefly. "That relieves me." "Were you worried about me?" Absolutely not." She became nervous at my question, although she tried to hide it. "I'm fine. I already survived a gunshot. Losing a little more blood is not a problem." "Even so, don't exert yourself, okay?" "At your service," I said so she wouldn't worry too much. Maybe this is a good time to talk to her. We could go straight to ask about her condition, but I think she might not appreciate it. We'll just ask what she's doing here. "What are you doing here?" "Me? I was simply watching the sunset. Isn't it beautiful and sad at the same time?" "Why sad? Why do you say it's sad?" "Why? Because dusk means the sun is leaving. The day is coming to an end. It's like going to a place where no one can see you, and many are those who disappear from this world with the illusion of seeing it again, of seeing a new dawn, which never came. Isn't that sad?" "You may be right, but it is a somewhat pessimistic view of a sunset." She smiled faintly, as a resigned grimace. "You're right. Sorry. Okay, so now... Okay, we've broken the ice bit, so now's a good time to ask about her condition. Hey, Serena?
Yes?
I would like to ask you about your condition.
My condition? What do you want to know?
Why do you need blood to survive? I mean, I understand that someone needs a transfusion because something is wrong with them, but I have never heard of a case like yours.
I understand that. It is normal for you to be puzzled or find it hard to believe, but it is the truth. And now I need your blood to live. You see, as far as I know, I was born with this condition. My mother died after giving birth to me. It was my father who raised me until I was a child. I've always been a weak girl, just like my mother. The sunlight made me weep, as if I were allergic to it. I guess I inherited it from her, or at least that's what I've been told, since I never met her. And about the blood, it is the only way for me to get stronger and to extend my life. Obviously, I can eat and drink like an ordinary person, but I will always need someone else's blood to survive. Don't you think it's kind of sad? I'm like a parasite.
Oh, I don't want to be... Oh, she's so sad. I can't be mean and say you're a parasite. You're not a parasite. We all need others to live, don't we? Your case is simply more delicate and special. Don't think that way about yourself, because that thought, that's a parasite, not you.
Do you think so? I find it hard to believe. But I appreciate your good intentions, Edgar. Thank you.
I more or less understand how important my blood is to you. Although I still have doubts about all this.
We can't expect to understand everything in the moment. Don't despair.
I would like to ask you something else.
I'm listening.
Okay, how have you fed yourself so far? Life in the mansion? Ooh, was there anyone else before me? Why does this feel like I'm asking about ex-boyfriends? There were more subjects like me before, weren't there? You know, the ones where you take the blood and...
Yes, there were.
And what happened to them?
They left. Some because they started to hate the job, others due to fatigue, and others because they became weak.
Weak?
Constant blood loss can weaken any living being, Edgar. That's why you had to sign some documents today, didn't you? Haven't you read them?
Of course. Yes, but I feel fine.
They said that too, the people who came here before you. You just take care of yourself and protect your health. And maybe when you reach your limit, that is when we will say goodbye to each other.
I mean, okay, why not? Just hear me out. Get 2 blood donors at the same time. Because then you can, like, alternate, right? So each donor can have a break, and then they won't necessarily get that fatigued that quickly. You've just got to get yourself a schedule of donors. There we go. I kept quiet so as not to take the issue any further. I wanted to discuss everything she said, but on the other hand, I still didn't know anything. How can I talk about something I don't know about? Oh, quite easily. You just open your mouth, let words come out, and just babble. I do it all the time. Obviously, I wanted to tell her with all of the fervour of my being that I had no intention of leaving. Everything she was saying was just a pessimism. But I couldn't do that. Not yet. Okay, well, we know how she's fed herself so far then, because there's been others. How have you been feeding yourself all this time?
feeding myself. It is both simple and complex. But just to give you an idea, the employees of the mansion are the ones who offer me the blood. I have never asked where it comes from, or from what or who it is. I just take it, and I don't ask too many questions. We have some stocks in bottles, but the best is fresh blood. It is rare to find people compatible with my metabolism, and when that happens, they tend not to endure it for very long.
Wait, how'd you get the reserves then? Oh, I've got it. As soon as they decide they want to quit the job and leave, the employees, kill them and harvest all their blood. There we go, case solved. What do you mean?
They end up dropping out, ceasing to be compatible, or
She paused slightly.
deteriorating. That's why you have to follow the medical advice you're given, okay?
I know. Okay. Oh, we could just say goodbye. No. We're gonna ask questions. We're asking all of the questions. How is your life in the mansion?
My life here.
Yeah, I want to know what your day-to-day life is like.
I have never been out of this place too much. I usually get up, take a shower, and take a small dose if I feel thirsty. I have always enjoyed reading all the books in the library, or take care of the plants in the vivarium. And I don't really have much more to say. A bit disappointing, isn't it?
What about your father? Do you have no friends or...
No. My father never comes here, and I've never had any friends. I have always been alone. And I imagine it will always be like this.
Okay, goodbye then. It's getting late. I think I should get something to eat and go back to my room. Do you mind if I go now?
Oh, of course not. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. There are still a lot of things I want to know, and according to Ray, I have to take care of you. So don't think you're rid of me.
I don't. I always try to have low expectations. And that means not having too many illusions.
See you tomorrow, Serena. I walked away as I said goodbye to her, but she remained silent. I was somewhat annoyed by her pessimism in her attitude, but I understood that maybe Serena couldn't have a different opinion because of everything she had been through so far, and that made me want to stay here and keep digging and get to know her. I had an intuition that she was someone special, someone worth knowing. Morning came, and with it, a new day. I yawned enthusiastically and dressed bravely. I really wanted to start doing 1,000 things as I was feeling better, with more energy. So, without thinking twice, I went out into the corridor. I looked for Serena so I could talk to her, but I couldn't find her anywhere. Act 2, Wounded Heart. Although I had been looking for her, I could not find her. I wandered through the various areas of the mansion. I searched in every corner. Nothing. I didn't know where she had gone. I asked Ray and some of the staff, but nobody could answer me. I can't sleep. I think I'll go for a walk. I cleared my throat with some water before leaving, trying to make as little noise as possible. I didn't want to wake anyone, in case others were sleeping. So, I decided to walk outside. Being able to feel the night breeze caressing my skin relaxed me. I didn't know the area, so I was careful not to get lost. Still, I enjoyed being able to sink my shoes into the ground, being able to caress the leaves of the trees, listening to the silence of nature. and to delight myself with the sea of stars that crowned the night sky. I cleared my mind of doubts and unnecessary things, or so I thought, because I kept thinking about where Serena might be. Why didn't anyone seem to care? Did they know where she was but didn't want to tell me? Was it something usual or secret? I didn't know. I still don't know anything. However, I was only a guest, and by the words of that girl, my presence here is as thin as the leaves of the deciduous plant. Knowing this was something that bothered me, I clenched my fist tightly after remembering that. But I want to do something. If everyone else chooses to look the other direction, I can't do it. I can't change the world, but maybe I can change hers, I said to myself, remembering the sad expression she always seemed to have. Why is her view of life so pessimistic? Has she had such a bad time? Has she suffered so much? I wish I could do something, but I sighed. I would just like to see her again. I reached the edge of a cliff and stopped for a few minutes to look at the horizon. When, all of a sudden, my eyes stopped on something, or rather, on someone. Serena was there, just as I found her yesterday, lost in thought. Why didn't she show up today? Why does she insist so much on running away and isolate herself? What does she seem to be so afraid of?
What are you doing here?
She said, half surprised, as if she was suspicious of me. Okay, I'm lost. I was looking for you. You know what? We'll be honest. We were looking for her. I was looking for you. I couldn't see you today, and I didn't know where you were. I was worried and I couldn't sleep. So I decided to go out and look for you.
Why would anyone do something like that?
I wonder about that too, you know. Because after all, we don't know each other.
It just makes you a stranger. Do you always look and care about people you have just met?
Not at all. But for a pretty girl like you, I made an exception, I said jokingly without malice. She remained quiet, but from her reaction, she didn't expect me to respond like that.
Stupid.
Well, are you going to tell me what a girl like you is doing at a place like this? I always wanted to say something like that sometime in my life. She didn't want to answer. Why didn't you show up at the mansion today? Did you not want to see me again?
No, it's nothing like that.
So, why do you seem to be running away and hiding?
I don't. It's just...
She took a breath of air.
Never mind. I'd rather not talk about it now.
We could insist or let it be. You know what, we're doing the kind run, right? Or let it be. Are you sure?
Yes.
To be honest with you, I'm curious to know what's going on in your situation.
Why?
I don't know. My intuition tells me you need help. Or maybe it's because I can't ignore someone like you.
Someone like me? What do you mean?
Well, do you want to know? I'm not very sleepy. We could sit and talk a bit, couldn't we? She weighed up her response.
All right, let's have a chat. You're pretty pushy, you know that.
That's a good thing, right? She let out a pleasant laugh.
Yeah, I guess so. Come on, sit down.
I moved a little closer to her, and after moving a few stones aside, I sat down on the ground.
So, tell me, what do you want to know?
Okay. Why are you hiding?
I've already told you I'm not hiding. I'm just a bit scared
What are you scared of?
to get along with you. And when you leave, I'll miss you.
For your information, I have no intention of leaving. Did you know that?
That is not something you decide, at least not entirely. What happens if you get sick like everyone else and have to give up?
That won't happen. I'm great. Haven't you seen me? I raised my arm to play the strong man.
You may be now, but what about tomorrow? What would happen if?
Then I'll think of something tomorrow. The point is, I'm fine now, so why are you so worried?
Because I've always been alone. I can't go out like other people. I have to confine myself here, where I can be cared for if I fall ill or faint, where I can get my food and medicine. I depend on many people, and yet I have been completely alone for as long as I can remember. The few people who came here never stayed long enough. When I got along with someone, I was rejected and abandoned without notice. That's why I'm afraid. I'm afraid of being fond of someone. Has this ever happened to you?
Me? Yeah, of course it happened to me.
And it doesn't hurt you?
Of course it hurts. You can experience incredible things with someone, and from one day to the next they disappear. The memories you spend with that person, the laughter, the tears, everything eventually fades into oblivion. But it is something we cannot control. It is something that is sometimes unavoidable. We all have a time limit on this world. You know that.
I know, but
Don't you think it's better to squeeze every second we have available? Take risks, make decisions, get out of our comfort zones and live in the fullest now that we can. Living, laughing, crying, loving, getting angry, being wrong, losing and winning. All of things that sooner or later can disappear. There is no joy without pain, and perhaps everything has a price. The question I ask you is, what do you want to keep?
what do I want to keep?
Yes. Would you rather stay and cling to the pain? Run away forever from something as human as that? Or would you rather take your chances and live with the good and the bad?
And you? What is your answer?
I don't know. Doubt is human too, isn't it? But after having lost everything, and also being alone in this chaotic world, I say I'd prefer to hold on to the good things. Maybe part of my insistence on you would be that. In using my time here to remember me, to make your world and the way you see it, or even live it, better. Thanks to the time we spent together.
You're a pretty strange person. Has anyone ever told you that?
I can be.
But I like it. I like the way you are. It may be that beneath the mundane appearance, there is someone quite virtuous and profound.
Of course. Hey, wait! Is that good or bad?
She laughed as she covered her mouth. Just kidding, Edgar. But thank you. As you say, I feel that every time I talk to you, you open my eyes a little more.
It is a pleasure to do so. And also, part of my job, I seem to remember. Okay. How can I help you? Listen, Serena.
Yes?
I kinda understand why you think and see everything in such a pessimistic way, but I wish there was something I could do to help you. To remove that veil of sadness from your eyes. So that you can see things in a different way, more, I don't know, happy? How can I help you?
And why do you think I need help? Have I asked you to do anything about it?
No. I suppose I am a selfish creature. And although you have not asked me for help in words, your expression and attitude say otherwise. She keeps quiet, as if she had been upset. Come on, you don't have to keep pretending you're a strong, indifferent girl. She looks away as if to avoid the subject. Alright. So, from the moment on, you and I. She turned her head back to look at me curiously. We'll be friends.
Friends?
Exactly, friends.
But you'll be gone soon, and you'll leave me like the others.
I won't do it. Besides being selfish, I'm stubborn. And I think you've missed something, Serena. You say that the others that you've met, they've just gone overnight, right?
That is...
And haven't you thought that maybe they weren't your friends? I mean, even if their work here had ended, that's not a good enough reason to stop talking to you. Or at least for me, none of that would be a reason to forget you. I don't intend to leave, but if I did, believe me, I would come back to visit you.
You say you'd still come back to see me?
Of course, because we are friends now. Her expression turned evasive to slightly nervous. Maybe I was finally convincing her to open her heart. Come on, miss. Drop that cold armor for once and give me your hand.
But if I do that, the pain will be even stronger. I don't want to end up broken into 1,000 pieces.
We all start out broken from the very beginning of our existence. Let at least one of my hugs put some of your pieces back together again, okay? Trust me. I extended my hand to her. I know it may be difficult for you, but we will take this step together. I'll take responsibility. Maybe that's why I came here. She reached out her hand and placed it over mine. I lightly brought her hand up towards my lips and gave her a gentle kiss, in imitation of loyalty to a medieval princess. Don't be afraid, Serena. It'll be all right, see? I smiled from ear to ease her anxiety, which seemed to work as her frown eased.
You win. You really are persistent, Edgar.
It's one of my qualities. You will discover the following ones. She closed her eyes and covered her mouth to laugh with restraint. Okay, I think finally, let's talk about the stars. Hey, Serena, don't you think the sky is beautiful today?
Yes, it definitely is.
Is it always like this?
Why do you ask?
In the city where I used to live, you couldn't see the stars. It was something that grieved me because I always loved the moon.
I understand. The sky has always been lit up like this here. In fact, when I was worried about something, I used to come here to walk around and contemplate them. It had always been something that relaxed me and helped me to think. What kind of undiscovered places will be up there? Will there be someone else like me, looking at the same sky? There are questions I used to ask myself as I watched them.
And what question do you ask yourself in this moment when you see them?
Now, I wasn't asking them anything. Rather, I was seeking comfort. Like you, I often identified with the moon. Feeling bathed in its light is magical for me. Since I am despised by the sun, I guess that makes me a creature of the night.
You are right, but remember, that is on the darkest night, and the true light shines the brightest.
What does this mean?
You will know in time. But I didn't really know what it meant either. I just wanted to impress her a bit. Okay then, but now that we've tried to charm her, let's go back to the mansion. I think we should get back to the mansion now, before it's too late. Besides, it's getting colder out here. I can't let you get sick.
I'll be fine. You don't need to worry.
I'm in care of this young lady, so no retorts. I held out my hand to help her up.
I'm starting to become aware of your blind insistence, so it's okay. You win.
Another victory for good old Edgar. I smiled as she stood up. Let's go back.
She nodded and we left the place.
The return walk wasn't too long, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to talk to her further. Serena,
Yes?
now I know you like to see the stars, but are there any other places you would like to see or visit?
I don't know. Maybe.
I'm sure that in some of your favorite books there are places that caught your attention.
Yes, there are. In that case, I am curious to visit the sea.
Going to the beach?
Yes, but I would like to dive deeper. But you know, I can't spend too much time in the sun and...
That's no problem. There are cloudy days and night. Instead of focusing on so much of the problems, let's join forces and find solutions. We're friends now, so you're not alone. I'll talk with Ray in case we can do some special trips.
Do you think I'll be able to go one day?
Of course. She smiled slightly.
Well, knowing how stubborn you are, that might be able to put it off and all.
Don't hesitate, my lady. When we finally reached the entrance of the mansion, we both said goodbye.
You know, I kind of appreciate your conversation today.
Really?
Yes. I never know what you'll surprise with me at every turn. And on the other hand, I'm grateful that you're not so quick to give up on me. Because, well, I know that sometimes I can be too unbearable.
Do you believe that about yourself? Because for me, it turns out to be the opposite. It's true that you're a bit icy from time to time, but that's part of your charm.
You're still a box of surprises.
All right, miss. But now we must go and rest. Or do you want Ray to wake up from his lethargy and tell us off?
I know. See you tomorrow, Edgar.
Sweet dreams, Serena. I jokingly bowed a little goodbye. I was happy to see that she was able to put an expression other than sadness. Saying goodbye with smiles, not tears, is something that should be the norm. But in the case of Serena, I guess it has never been. And perhaps not for me either. In any case, it was time to switch off the mind and close my eyes. I said goodbye to the past and the present to face a better future. Act 3. The pain of being alive. After that night, when Serena and I had some time to talk and become closer, everything changed. Our relationship, which had previously been cold and distant, was beginning to be the opposite. Hi, Ray. Who is it? Oh! I'm surprised. You have a very Ray knock.
It's me. Can I come in? Are you presentable?
Of course I am. Come in, come in. Every day since then, the two of us would meet to hang out together, to talk about anything, or just walk around. Although, to be honest, I used to be her who always came to me first. I could be because she's dying to be with me. Or it could be because I'm sleeping late. What do you feel like doing today? Today?
Let me think.
She weighed all of her options before giving me an answer. Well, you have time to think about it, because today I have to go with Ray for you know what.
Oh!
Blood collection days was something Serena hated, because they created some uncertainty for her. That long face again? You see, you have nothing to worry about.
So you say, but what if you start feeling unwell today?
If the last few times nothing happened, this time it will be no less. In fact, how about you come with me?
To watch you lose years of your life because of me? That's cruel of you, Edgar.
What if I told you I had this pessimistic attitude?
It's not pessimism, it's a reality. Or do you enjoy having so much blood taken from you?
I don't enjoy it. What I do enjoy is the result. I took her hand in a gentlemanly manner.
All right. I trust this stubborn person.
That's better. I praised as I patted her on the back.
You still need to prepare yourself, don't you?
Yeah, but it won't take long.
Then I'll wait for you in my room when you're done with Ray.
No problem. Now come on, get out of here before you see me naked.
In that case, I have no problem.
She laughed as I pushed her out of the room. Don't be a pervert and give me some privacy. Come on.
Okay. You don't have to push me.
I closed the door as soon as her feet landed on the hallway carpet. After that, I leaned my back against the cold wood of the door, letting myself slide down to sit on the floor.
Don't forget to meet me in my room afterwards. It's a promise,
she shouted at me as she walked away. I gave an anguished laugh in complete silence. I was tired, extremely tired. The bad thing, I had just woken up. I knew what this exhaustion was about, and I don't think I needed to mention it. I'm not sure how long I've been here. With Ray, with Serena. How many months or weeks have passed since then? I wasn't sure, but here I am, still making promises I may not be able to keep. I'm starting to get pathetic. I laughed inwardly again, almost desperately. Maybe Serena is really right, and I'm going to have to resign. I raised my hand to look at her, but that simple gesture was already difficult to do. No, I can still hold on. I'm sure of it. I tried to get up from the floor, but after that, I became completely dizzy. Luckily, I was able to hold on so I didn't fall. Even so, I was scared. My legs were trembling along with my arms. However, I decided to go ahead and ignore these warnings. I didn't want to break my promise to her. I didn't want to leave her alone. I grabbed the doorknob and with great effort opened it. I headed towards the room where the nurses and Ray were usually waiting to fill the blood supplies. At the same time, I thought that, in addition to not wanting to abandon her, I was also pure selfishness. I didn't want to be away from her. I was beginning to need her, to want to know more about her, to want to hear her voice. But I knew this was also killing me. Again, just get a rotation of donors. Well, actually, they did say it was hard to find people that matched, right? I sat in my usual chair. A chair that, rather than being comfortable, I was beginning to see as an execution chair. The look on Ray's and the nurses' faces looked more and more worried. But no one dared mention it, to tell me that my life was hanging by a thread. Obviously, I could give up and let someone else take this seat. Let someone else's blood run through these tubes. The blood of someone other than my own would feed Serena. I didn't want it to happen. Edgar, your last analysis. I don't think you need to tell me. It's obvious how I feel, isn't it? Does Miss Serena know? No, I have not let her see me in this state. And when do you plan to tell her? Edgar, you are free to leave at any time. If you do, you could still... Don't go on, Ray. I'm aware of everything and I don't care. I told you that when we first met. Don't you remember? I had nothing, so I have nothing to lose if I end up dying here. In fact, I'd be giving my life for someone else. Isn't that a good thing? That, at last, my existence has made some sense. What about her? He interrupted me, annoyed. What about Serena? Don't you have each other now? Since I have been working in this mansion, I have seen the lady like a soul in pain in these corridors. Do you know how much she has changed since you've been with her? Do you? If you don't know, then think about it, Edgar. Think about her, too. Of course, I think about everything. That's why I'm sitting in this chair. I am giving my blood, my time, my few energies I have for what I consider important. Her. And if you die, do you think that would cheer her up? If there is one thing I have learned, is that time can bury everything. I watched how the nurses picked up the instruments, so I started to take things off my arm. Can you stand up? Yeah, I tried to answer, but I regretted it. I'll take you to your room, but drink plenty of water and rest. If your situation does not become more stable tomorrow, I will sign your resignation for you. I tried to answer, but I could feel my vision beginning to blur with dizziness. I closed my eyes and knew that Ray was carrying me on his back to my room. As he laid me on the bed, words came from my lips. Thank you, Ray. A whisper that I would never know if it was heard or not. When I could open my eyes again, the sun was already setting. I didn't know what time it was. I didn't know how long I had been since I fell asleep. That didn't matter now. Serena, I said quietly as I left for her room. I was mentally prepared to do my best and pretend that everything was completely normal. Excuse me. I walked into the room where Serena usually read. On her table was a large, almost empty bottle. Also a cup that, in other circumstances, anyone might otherwise think would contain a luxurious wine. However, I knew it was my own blood. You've finally come. You don't know how long I've been waiting to have some time alone with you, Edgar. Well, you have me all to yourself. Exclusively for you, my dear Serena. The evening light bathed the whole room with the sweetness and sadness of my childhood memory. The reflections on the crystal glass blinded me when, by mistake, my eyes fell on the glass. And almost as a distant farewell, a flock of birds could be seen on the horizon as they chirped out of sync. I've already told you not to treat me as if I were a rich lady. I know. I pulled back one of the chairs to sit down. She did the same and sat across from me. She leaned her elbows on the table and rested her cheek on her raised hands. For a few seconds, she admired the old landscape with the same melancholy that characterized her. There was a faint, quiet peace in the air, something that calmed my being, even though it felt that all this was beginning to come to an end. An end, like the sun itself, that now embraced us in its warmth, and now also began to lose its power. I sighed slightly in relief. My legs were so tired as to cause me to be out of breath, so sitting here was the best thing I could do to hide my condition from her eyes. Well, what did you do today? I asked to bring up a topic of conversation and break the silence. She looked at me with curiosity and slight annoyance. Wait for you, she said in a somewhat annoyed tone. I knew Serena loved being with me, because even if it didn't seem like it, she enjoyed my jokes, from my witty remarks, and of course, from my way of thinking as well. She loved to debate with me about anything, just to get my opinion on everything. And that's all. I didn't think you had the spirit of an old woman in you. I tried to annoy her. Very funny, Edgar. She pulled my cheek to chastise me for that cruel remark. The truth is that... She paused slightly. Yes? I tried to get her to finish her sentence. I'm worried about you. Again? We've talked about it many times, and I've always shown you that I can stand on my own 2 feet. You don't have to worry about anything. She turned her head with an even deeper grimace of annoyance on her face. To whom did I really want to lie? I was in a pitiful state. It had been days since I had looked in the mirror, because seeing myself so emaciated was terrifying. But that is why I am here. I cannot run away from my duty, from what I have promised her. Of course, I also used to wonder at times why I was so insistent on keeping a life-threatening promise to a girl I didn't know very well. Why was I doing this?
I'm just saying I'm worried about you. I don't want anything bad to happen to you.
I knew she cared a lot about me, but that might not be the right thing to call it, because in reality, what she felt was fear, a deep fear of being hurt by others, of being abandoned and cast aside, as had always happened to her. Perhaps it was cruel to say so on my part, but I knew that I was one of the few people who were committed to making a change, to break that loop in her life of pain, to transform it into beautiful memories that hopefully she could one day look back on with joy. And for this, I had to stay on my feet as long as possible. As I have made clear many times before to her, to Ray, and to myself, I was not here against my will. I really wanted to help her. I'm not lying when I say that I enjoy being around Serena, because she is, well, it didn't matter now, because however incredible and special she was, in the end, it was me who was becoming a liar. She looked at me sideways, keeping silent, as if she was judging or suspecting me. Or it could also be my own sense of guilt. Quick, say something, I shouted at myself to react. Serena, for her part, picked up the half-empty cup with one hand and took a small sip of the contents. After putting it back on the table, she cleaned her lips with her tongue in a semicircular motion.
It doesn't bother you? She asked me.
What should bother me?
Me, drinking your own blood without any kind of shame in front of you. Doesn't that make you feel like you're some kind of... I don't know.
Why should I feel bad about it? I replied. You needed to survive, to stay healthy. You shouldn't apologize for being what you are.
I know, but it still seems a bit strange to me,
she answered as she played, sliding the tip of her index finger over the rim of the cup. I sighed as I took a breath. You know, my blood is not the only thing I want to give you. I came here so that you could feed yourself and have a chance to feel better. But that is not all. I began to explain as she looked curiously at me. I don't know how long it's been since we've known each other, and yet I tried to give you so much more than just my blood. I tried to give you my time, my attention, my friendship, and my heart, so that you can heal those wounds yourself.
Which wounds are you talking about?
The ones you have deep inside you. The ones you can't talk to anyone about, because they could never understand your pain.
I don't.
She was hesitant. You need not try to hide it any longer with me, Serena. Your eyes often show what you try to hide, and your silence shouts what you try to keep quiet. I know you're hurt. I know you've always been alone, but I also know it won't be forever.
And how do you know that, eh?
She raised her voice as she banged on the table.
I've never had anyone with me, and when I have, they've been gone.
She rose from her seat and looked out the window.
What are you supposed to know about how I feel, Edgar?
You're right. I don't know. I clenched my fists. But you don't know everything about me either, do you? You don't know what I've been through to get here, or who I was until a few days ago. You don't know that either. And I don't care about that, Serena, because I made a decision when I saw you. I put all those questions behind me, all my past, to focus on what took my breath away, and that was you. I have no regrets since I met you, and if I had it all, perhaps, I would still think I was missing you. I gave everything, I am, and have, expecting nothing in return from you. I do it willingly, because I believe it is the right thing to do, because I think you are worth taking a risk, and you deserve it. We all deserve to be trusted and believed in like that, don't you think?
And why did you decide to do it with me?
I don't know, I replied to follow after a brief silence. Maybe because I saw myself reflected in you.
Reflected? We are very different, you and I.
No, we're not. We're both afraid.
I got up as she did to stand beside her.
I am also afraid of being forgotten.
Did you?
She looked at me a little puzzled.
But you always seem so outgoing, and you get along with others.
What's that got to do with it? That only makes others expect me to be made of steel. Someone who is always so cheerful and who makes them forget what inside I am still a broken person. Maybe that's why I saw myself reflect in you, Serena. Because when I saw you walking with such majesty, as if you were an angel among mortals, because of your hair as white as purity, no one noticed you. They simply ignored you when I was completely dazzled and spellbound. And you know what is the best thing? That I wasn't wrong at all. She kept her curious, almost teary-eyed gaze directly on my eyes. She said nothing, but I knew she was anxious about the 1,000 things and surrounded by 1,000 of fears. I don't regret coming here. I do not regret giving my life for you. Because I don't regret meeting you.
You don't understand, Edgar. I don't want you to give your life for me. If you die, what will be left for me then? What I want is for you to be able to be with you, not for you to sacrifice yourself for me or die because of me.
I know. I was trying to find a way to answer her, but I couldn't help feeling like a liar. As if in promising her I would never leave her side, the reminder that my life was ebbing away caressed me like a poisonous whisper. After a few seconds of abrupt silence, overshadowed only by the squawks of distant animals melting into the light on the horizon, she resumed her restless voice.
So,
She asked me as if she wanted to put an end to the conversation.
will you stay with me? Or will you leave? What are you going to do?
I won't leave.
So, can you promise me? Tell me, Edgar, can you promise me that you will never leave?
I swallowed bitterly as a pile of confusion and nervousness formed inside me. I wanted to make that promise to her, but I knew I shouldn't do it. My time here was perhaps coming to an end, as much as I would like to think otherwise. If I promised to be by her side forever, wouldn't that be a cruel lie? If I hurt her, I would not forgive myself. But at this moment, whatever I said, whatever I did, I knew it would end in something painful for both of us. Still, I had to give her an answer. I had to calm her anxiety and worry. Perhaps at the cost of a big lie, perhaps at the cost of a cruel truth, or who knows? I mean, we can promise we won't ever willingly leave, I suppose. Is it better to hurt her now or hurt her later? I mean, she's gonna know either way, right? I will just make the promise. I promise you, I will not go away, and I will stay with you no matter what.
Are you serious?
Of course, I'd never lie to you. Telling her all this without a hint of compassion was sickening to me, even though at the time I thought it was the best thing for her, and for both of us.
I'll take your word for it, Edgar.
I'm starting to feel a bit tired. Do you mind if I go and rest in my room?
Of course not. You can go.
Taking advantage of the meager energy I'd gained in this brief moment, I pretended to be able to make my own way to my room. In that same night, something woke me abruptly. My heart was beating hard and fast. My breath was coming out of my body as if it was carrying all of my life force, and with it, a deep foreboding that this was probably a warning that my body could go no further. The last remnants of life, which clung to me, were beginning to fade. Serena! I woke up, completely dizzy and disorientated. I wanted to see her. I needed to see her. After calming down and concentrating on my breathing for a few minutes, I headed towards her bedroom. As I guided myself with the palm of my hand along the wall of that long corridor, I went looking for her. But why did I want to do that? What was I supposed to achieve? I knew that for me, it was too late. Still, maybe for her, it wasn't yet. I knocked on her door.
Who is it?
It's me. I tried to identify myself without raising my voice too much, both because of my lack of strength and so as not to alert anyone else.
Edgar? Give me a moment.
When she opened the door, Serena was in the nightgown she used to wear to sleep, as well as with her reading glasses.
What's going on, Edgar? What are you doing here at this hour?
I wanted to talk to you a little bit, that's all. Serena took one look at my haggard appearance and knew I was sick. That something was going on, and on this occasion, I was the fool for believing I could go on like this, hiding a truth, that I was dying. All the warnings I ignored turned out to be true, that despite my stubbornness, I cannot solve anything on my own, and I am not a man of iron.
Come on in.
She invited me in as she grabbed my arm to help me walk. None of us mentioned anything about it. I guess by now it was an open secret. I lay back on the bed, still uncovered, while she put her glasses on the table nearby. After that, she went to the window and stared at the moon through the glass. The night light magically enveloped Serena. Like a fairy of the forest, like a creature of the darkness. She always looked so stunning in my eyes that I don't know at what point I fell to my knees, in the shadow of the man I once was, or wanted to be. What am I supposed to do? I said to myself, after becoming aware of everything that was happening. Why did I find myself accepting my own death in spite of my terror? Ah, of course. All of this because I...
Don't get out of bed, Edgar. Please.
She rarely asked me for anything, especially in such a serious way, so I obeyed without hesitation. I'm coming to my end, aren't I?
No,
she replied firmly.
This will not be your farewell, because if you disappear, I will disappear with you.
None of that, I shouted, unable to contain my rage at the thought. You can't say such a thing.
This is your fault, because you've been so selfish that you haven't thought about me. All the times I asked you to be careful and...
She could barely finish speaking without letting out a tear.
You're so selfish.
You might be right, I replied as I dropped my head back on the pillow. Maybe it is my own selfishness that is killing me right now. And that fills me with rage. Because I feel, despite having given you all of me, you have not been able to move further at all.
What do you mean?
I told you, don't you remember? I came here for you to shine, so that you could be happy in the future. For... I stopped slowly, as my head was spinning too much.
I never asked you for anything like this, Edgar.
I'm sorry. She came to the side of the bed and took my hand tightly. Does it really make sense for us to discuss this one more time?
No, it doesn't. Forgive me.
She tried to apologize while gently squeezing my hand. So, I'm dying, right?
It seems so.
It's not your fault, Serena. I comforted her as I stroked her cheek. Actually, nothing is your fault. I've already told you.
But why does it all have to end like this? Is there no other way to...
She fell silent, as if she had realized something. The only thing that will end today, perhaps, is my heartbeat. But you will still be here, and I hope that my time with you has helped you realize something important.
Something important? Something like what?
You must not hate yourself. You must not fear life, the light. I don't want you to keep running away, no matter how painful it is.
You make it look so easy, when you know I can't.
I know, I interrupted her.
No, once again, you know nothing.
You're wrong, because I have seen all of you. I have stayed up late contemplating how the night embraced you, and how the morning repudiated you. I have seen how you have wept silently, and how you have laughed guiltily. I have seen it all, because without being able to avoid it, I have gone beyond. Yes, that's why I'm here, Serena. It's because I love you, from the first instant when I was enraptured by you. Is it the famous vampire charm? I laughed tiredly, as she smiled tenderly in return.
No, it wasn't.
She slowly stroked my hair, with an affection like that of a mother for her sick child. I finally said it. I love you, Serena. Ever since we met for the first time, I've liked you. And like a madman, I've followed you. And as only a blind man in love would do, I've followed you to the end of all. However, I suppose it has been my own blind love that has left me in this state. That's it. I was stupid and unaware. I thought I had everything under control. If it came down to me, I would be able to solve anything. That I was going to be different from the others, like the protagonist of a story. But I was wrong. I'm not a protagonist. I'm not a hero. I have only been a fool who, with the intention of helping someone, has only ended up in deepening their wound. She spoke so softly that I couldn't understand her. What did she want to tell me? Or maybe, thank you, I answered without knowing what she really meant. She hugged me, lifting my body and holding it close to hers. She didn't want me to look directly into her face, but I knew she was crying. This was our farewell, and my consciousness was so blurred to the point that the clear reality was now based on mere supposition. She was trying to tell me, but without finishing the sentence.
If I were really a vampire, I could give you a simple kiss, and you'd still be alive.
Could something like this be possible? To be honest, I didn't care whether it was true or false either. I felt at complete peace. Drowsiness was beginning to win over my eyelids, and the sound seemed further and further away.
Edgar!
She called out to me in sobs, a cry as mournful as it was heartbreaking. It was as painful as if it was indifferent. I was going to die, wasn't I? Nothing made sense to me anymore. Right. Yeah. That's... I could feel that at any moment I was going to enter into a final sleep. I wanted to use my last seconds to... We'll apologize to her. I mean, we've already told her how we feel. Pushing it further is probably going to upset her more. Serena.
Please don't speak,
she ordered me as she burst into tears. I think, even if it's too late, I have come to understand it. I have sinned of stubbornness and ended up like this. I ignored how you felt, or how you might feel now, because I thought none of it would matter. Just thinking that in the future you wouldn't even remember these days with me. I wanted to teach you so many things in order for you to have a bright future. And I think I have only stained your hands with blood and your heart with more wounds. I'm a fool. Forgive me, Serena. My eyes were beginning to close under their own weight. Forgive me.
Edgar!
She shouted at me from a distance.
Well, she wasn't far away though.
She was right next to me. I was the one who was leaving, just as she always feared. I was a real idiot and selfish, and I deeply regret leaving this bitter memory in her. I wanted to change everything, and this is my pathetic end. I wanted to be her Prince Charming to save her, but I guess in reality, I needed to be saved too. I wanted to take away her chains and fears, but I was the one who was the most terrified and injured.
I told you, you just needed to essentially get a harem of blood bags, and everyone's problems would have been solved.
You were a fool, Edgar. And Ray. Come on, Ray, you should have known this. He has gone. Despite all his promises, he has left. I was a silly girl to believe him, for trusting someone again. Now, once again, I'm torn and broken into 1,000 pieces. I miss him. No, I can never hate him, because he was always right from the first moment we met. I should have forced him to leave before we reached this point of no return. Now, everything I wanted to tell him, every moment I wanted to live by his side, that can never happen. He gave everything for me, and I gave him nothing. Maybe deep inside I knew that this day would come, and that's why I wanted to run away from it. Not because I didn't want to be by his side, but because I was afraid of not wanting to be away from his warmth. I guess we were both so similar and yet so different. And it doesn't matter, because I learned from him and he from me. That's why, despite all the pain that is killing me, even though being what I am, I just must go on. For me and for Edgar. I'm so sorry. I feel the guilt weigh on me every fibre of my soul, and multiply by the pain of your absence. I can never repay you for all that you have given me. You tried to save my wounded heart, and though I ended up in misery, I have only gratitude for you. Thank you, my dear. Thanks for everything, Edgar. I will always miss you. With love and a warm farewell, Serena. So because there's only one ending, all the other choices for this basically only give you slightly different dialogues. I was just curious what would happen if we did the whole promise thing, if that would give us different end text maybe. I can't promise you that. I can't do it. I can't promise you something like that.
Why not?
Because we don't control the future, and we don't know what can ever happen. That's why I can't promise you anything. I don't have the courage or the certainty that I will be able to fulfill it.
I understand, although that's not something I expected from you.
A grimace of sadness and disappointment took over Serena's face completely, and seeing her like that made me feel disgusted with myself. I didn't want to hurt her or disappoint her, but this was my false truth. I'm starting to feel a bit tired. Do you mind if I go and rest in my room? Oh! Wait, so I've got different choices? Is this because I said I couldn't promise her I'd still be here? So I could ask her to save me or blame her for everything? Well, that one just feels incredibly cruel. How about we ask her to save us? Please, I whispered as I took her hand. Save me. Give me that blood kiss or whatever, but please, I don't want to end up like this. I don't want to die. Help me. I really regret everything. Without a word, she brought her lips to my neck. I could feel her breath quickening by crying, impacting and sliding across my skin, her hair falling chaotically around her face, and tears freezing like the creature of the night she was. If that kiss turned me into a monster in exchange for staying alive, I didn't care, because I can't, she replied, giving way to an expression of guilt and at the same time, destroying all hope within me. I can't do it. I'm afraid. Sir, my hand landed with a thud on the soft mattress. My eyes slowly closed as the drops of her tears slid down my neck. And she held me tighter. Maybe she didn't feel the same for me, but why was she holding me so tightly, as if she didn't want me to leave? Why didn't she save me from the clutches of death? I smiled. I am sorry. I wish I'd never met you. You know, well, technically yes, the same ending. It kind of just feels different. I think it's for the fact we've just told her we basically hate her, right? I couldn't do it. Edgar has died. He has died in my own arms. He is gone as I clung fearfully to his empty body, as he desperately asked me to save him from the clutches of death. He, who has given everything for me and I, could not correspond to him. I could have saved him a long time ago, but I didn't. I just couldn't do it. As I warned him that afternoon, I am a parasite, a monster that drains the life and essence of others until they are consumed, and that has been Edgar's fate. Wait, is that the choice that got me this ending? Because earlier when she mentioned she was a parasite, we could either say no she wasn't or yes she was. So I think on this one I actually agreed with her, just to see if it was much different. Oh, interesting. I knew he loved me to the point of going to this extreme, and I didn't avoid it. All because of my own fear. Fear of life, of love, of pain, of everything. Also of the bitter and hard truth. A truth I never wanted to admit and never wanted to know. This is all my fault, and always has been. I loved him too. I loved him very much. But my voice froze. My body was paralyzed, and my will was broken. The words did not come out of my mouth, nor did my farewell to him, nor did his salvation. Now, I possess only the weight of his dead body, full of my sins. I was never the angelic being he believed me to be. No, not at all. I only was, and always will be this, a cowardly monster who lost her heart. All the words I could never say to you, and all the memories that are now tinged this morning. All this is what I really deserve. Forgive me, Edgar. Forgive me. I'm sorry, Serena. Because I'm curious if we blame her for everything, that would also give us a bit of a change in the end dialogue. I hate you. Her embrace became tense, and she froze when she heard me say that. I don't want to die. I don't want to die! I shouted as if panic had taken over my voice. And all of this is your fault! You really are. You really are, I repeated, whispering more and more. I didn't want to say anything about that, but I couldn't hold back my thoughts. Fear possessed me as I realized that these were my last moments of life. You really are. A monster. I closed my eyes, full of anger and jealousy, of helplessness and frustration. I was a fool for loving her, for saying I hated her. I didn't know what I was feeling anymore. I couldn't tell what was true and what was a product of my despair, of my own fear. Serena simply remained silent, paralyzed. And after all that deafening noise in my head, after my last breath, only silence was left. Well, that certainly feels like the hate ending. After his screams full of pain and fury at me, I simply kept quiet. What could I say to him? I knew there was nothing I could do for him, or to ease his anguish. I also knew that his words, though laden with resentment, were true. I was a monster. What in another age I would have been classified as vampire. Despised by the light, by life, shouted in the shadows and darkness. I always ended up destroying what was important to me or others. I guess I can't escape the threads of fate. The guilt ate at my mind, and the pain rotted my heart even more. But my soul, if I still had it, certainly lost all its colour tonight. I had lost him. Edgar was dead, and I was solely responsible for it. This sadness that now comes flooding back is starting to become normal for me, and that terrifies me. Was I just getting used to this? Was I becoming so insensitive and cold? I despised myself. The rest despised me. And just when someone seemed to be giving their all to get me out of this agonizing loop, he died because of me. I could have done so many things for him. I could have done so much. But once again, I was just a spectator. I was afraid this would happen. Absolutely. But I was also afraid that this day would never come. If I kept his word, his promise, perhaps I would have loved him so much that I would be holding a sharp knife to my neck right now. But I did not. It never has been and never will be, because I'm not human. I'm a parasite, a vampire, and I end up consuming everyone equally. Even so, despite your understandable hatred for me, Edgar, I could never hate you, because you made me remember what I was always the one who was the wrong. And I can never run away from myself, or from what I am. Anyway, you tried so hard that you died in my arms, and that's why I can never hate you, much less forget you. Thanks for everything, Edgar. And forgive me. Goodbye, Serena. Okay, so I feel like this is our last one. So we're back to our first choices. And now I'm gonna tell her how I feel. Serena, I regret nothing.
Edgar!
She caressed my face with a fragile tenderness. She held me in her arms, as if I were a piece of porcelain, about to shatter into 1,000 pieces. It calmed me down, even though I was on the edge of the abyss. I'm just afraid to leave you alone, one more time. However, these days have been unique, thanks to you. I know I've lied to you, and I haven't helped at all, but please, don't let it be because of my fault. Others can't enjoy your amazing magic again. Let not my farewell silence your pain, nor forbid your joy. If there's one thing I know for sure, it's that you deserve to be happy. You deserve everything, because I love you. I could feel her shaking my more and more inert body, lifeless. Her cold tears ran down my skin like the ink of a pen in a bitter poem. A tragic poem in which I could only dwell in her memory. Since what we have experienced together in this short time, only she and I will know, in our sad and painful secret. Now, it is up to her to spread her wings to live in freedom. For me, this was my end. And that's how it all ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. It was a quote that right now I had embedded like a splinter deep in my heart, making my blood to be dispersed and diluted in a sea of tears. Why did it all have to end like this? Is it really my destiny? Is it my own nature? I never asked for any of this. Edgar's hollow body lying in my arms. Despite holding him tightly, I clung to the last words that came out of his voice, for they were the last and most precious thing I had left of him, along with my memories. How am I supposed to get through this when they've left this mark deep inside me? No, I can't do it. And at this precise moment, I wish only two simple things. That you would open your eyes again, or, on the other hand, I wish I could join you in your mortal dream. And I know I can't achieve both. That's why I now look up at the star-filled sky, as full of light as it is of emptiness, as full of doubts as it is of answers. What am I supposed to do now? Why does everything have to be so cruel to me? Why? Why does even the day and life itself always flee from my hands? I am tired of watching it all go away, and I am limited to watching it as a mere spectator. But now to this sea of stars, I ask only that you watch over and guide this man, Edgar, just as he gave his life for me, just as now he turned himself into stardust. Wherever you go, I am sure you can rest. From wherever you are, I am sure you can see and hear me. So please don't leave me alone. Don't take your attention away from me, because I will do my best to make all of your sacrifice worthwhile. I am sure that this will not be our last goodbye, that this is not farewell. I know that soon we can share smiles again, tears, pain, heartbeats, and our secret love. Thank you for everything, Edgar. With love, Serena. Well, I hope you enjoyed that playthrough of Serena. While fundamentally, yes, it is the same ending, it does feel quite distinguished between the four. I think it's mainly the motion behind each one. If you're looking for something else to watch, then there are 4 other games within this universe that we have played on this channel, and I'll leave a link to the playlist down below. And if you've enjoyed your time here, please remember to like this video and subscribe to this channel to stay up to date. But other than that, I hope you have a spooky day, and I'll catch you next time, guys.